What's up, everybody? This is your boy Chris Sarad bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of all your vehicles. On today's show, we're going to talk about Stellantis again and how they're having a mix-up in the, in the executive suites, as it were, with the CFOs and the COOs and Carlos Tavares and everybody else. Then we're going to check out the new CyberCar from Tesla that Elon Musk just checked out or brought out to us. We're going to check that out, see how we feel about that. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about Trump and his recent controversial speech at the Detroit Economic Club a couple of days ago. So, first up, let's jump into Stellantis, and they have another shakeup, as it were, when it comes to their executive suite. They've decided that Carlos Tavares is going to resign in 2026, but it's a little bit more to it than that. So, let's check it out.
Departure is part of a broad management shakeup at Stellantis. What do we know?
Yeah, Francine, listen, after that profit warning, as you mentioned about 2 weeks ago, something had to be done. And what was done after a 2-day board meeting in the United States by Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, was a massive shakeup across the entire business globally. So we had the departure of the CFO. As you mentioned, we also have a shakeup at the COO's office, both also the local COOs, both in North America and in China, as well as the heads of Maserati and Alfa Romeo. And this comes as Carlos Tavares is dealing with a lot of things, including obviously the sort of broader sentiment within the auto industry, but a few idiosyncratic issues. They have a lot of inventory stuck in the United States. They've got issues with the unions. And of course, Francine, he's flying from the U.S. back to Rome to go to speak before lawmakers because they are very concerned about the fact that they might have to close factory and there's not that kind of capacity being generated within Europe. We also think about Carlos Tavares as this is basically his last year and a half as CEO. We know that John Elkann, the chairman, is looking for his replacement. The question will be for Tavares, will he be able over that period of time to both weather the storm and also bring exciting new cars to market? And that's exactly what we'll ask him when we speak to him on Monday from the Paris Auto Show. We should say, Francine, that this morning, after all of those moves, the shares are down 3%. That brings the shares down about 20% since that profit warning. So investors may be not taking solace in this management shakeup.
So we got delivery numbers also from Mercedes and BMW. What story does that tell us?
Yeah, so listen, not a very good story either. We had also profit warnings, not just from Stellantis, but from Mercedes, BMW, and also Volkswagen. And we got some of their delivery figures that tell us a very sort of negative story, particularly, Francine, in China. When you drill down into the China figures for these car makers, you had Mercedes down 13%, you had Porsche down 19%, BMW down 30%. If you think about that, Francine, that is 30% decrease in BMW's biggest market in China, and that is even before any conversation about retaliatory tariffs. There is one silver lining, Francine. I did look for one for BMW. They did manage to increase their EV sales by 10% in the quarter. That really bucks the trend for a lot of the automakers that are really struggling with those EV sales. And you show it there, you can contrast it to Mercedes, which was down 30% in the quarter. So overall, more bad news for the auto sector, Francine.
So, it seems like I talk about Stellantis every week, and everybody thinks that I just am a Stellantis hater. Well, I am. Stellantis is literally destroying one of our most prized automotive possessions here in the United States. It's almost gone. I mean, the record losses in sales, the record layoffs at the factories, the record amount of losses in EV sales. Stellantis is literally destroying some of our favorite automakers. Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. I drive a Durango, one of my cars. I love Dodge. I've always worked at Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep dealerships over my life, and they've always been comparable cars. I mean, you do find some cars that are come overseas that are better, but we sit here as Stellantis literally destroys one of our prized automakers, and it's crazy. It's so bad. It just resonates throughout the whole United States of America. Factory closings, layoffs everywhere, changing of the guard. We've done so many stories about executives that have retired or just quit or went out looking for another opportunity because they see the writing on the wall just like everybody else does. And I don't understand why nobody really sees how much of a corporate raider that Stellantis is, and that the end game is just to sell it off in parts, make their money on the back end, and keep it moving. Because that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're selling off piece by piece, breaking it down. It's one of those situations where you make something worse to make it less valuable, and then you show a little growth so that somebody else will buy it. Somebody will buy it, and you're rid of it. You've made your money. You've broken it down into the pieces that you needed. It's just a complete and utter corporate raider strategy that is been used since the beginning of time. And how Stellantis became this parent company that is literally being allowed to destroy these automakers is beyond me. It's beyond me. I don't see any comeback from this, because as days go by, you continue to see that the automakers that Stellantis covers losing market share left and right. Market share is being lost, specifically to the EVs. Stellantis ain't selling no EVs. No, none of their EVs are exciting enough to be sold in extreme amounts. It's to the point where they probably do need to partner with another company, a Nissan or something like that. But that's not what they're going to do. They're going to continue to run these automakers into the ground. They're going to begin to offer them for sale. They're going to stop making certain vehicles, the iconic vehicles. They're going to try to change it completely over to EVs, which is going to eliminate a lot of the factory jobs here in particular in Michigan. So they're really setting it up to the point where they're going to get rid of, gas-powered vehicles, which is going to get rid of the factory workers who are working on gas-powered vehicles, which is going to cavalcade into more layoffs and more problems. It's a sad day. It's a major problem. Nobody seems to see it. I know Sean Fain sees it, but he probably just doesn't care, because he's still hoping and praying that he's going to get him a position in the next presidency in that cabinet in some way, shape, or form, which I highly doubt, because Kamala Harris ain't with the UAW, ain't with the automotive industry in no factor. She was not even about to. It's just getting so worse when it comes to Stellantis and and Chrysler and Dodge Jeep and the future. It's so getting worse for the future of these automakers, and I don't see any happiness, any growth, any positivity in the future. It's not like they're investing money into battery cell plants like GM or inventing or partnering with other companies so they could be better in the EV market. There is probably a new automaker coming out back in the day, back for a little while there was a new automaker coming out every couple of months. Derek Bailey's, the BYDs, all these automakers just start coming out the blue. Fisker, Polestar, and all of them are taking up market share that the Chryslers and the Dodges and the Jeeps of the world dominated. And now it's over. It's completely over. And Stellantis is just going to keep on driving it into the ground, and it's just really, really sad. So, let's keep it going. So, Elon Musk, my man Elon Musk, and Tesla decided they were going to whip out the CyberCar and it looked cool, if you like that type of thing. So let's check it out, and then we'll talk about how we feel about it.
CyberCab was in many ways what we expected, right? Forward-facing seats, no steering wheel, no pedals, butterfly wing doors. But the surprise is Tesla's plan to sell it, to make it available to buy, particularly if Elon Musk is right, at a price point below $30,000. That was a surprise. His prediction is that it will go into production in 2026, but by his own admission, he's often wrong or misses the mark when it comes to predictions, not just on timeline actually, but often when a new Tesla product comes to market, it's at a much higher price or price premium than originally stated. The Robovan was a surprise. For a while we've been hearing there would be another vehicle, and maybe it would be that cheaper vehicle that we've been talking about for many years, but it was a completely different form factor. And in the world of robotaxis or autonomous driving, there's examples of this, right? Waymo working with Zeekr. There is Zoox having its purpose-built shuttle. It's an idea that kind of more closely mimics public transit, but in that autonomous driving scenario. And Tesla wants to do it, really interesting. And then of course there was a heavy presence from the Optimus humanoid robot, the probable headline being that, again, price point below $30,000, but again, Elon Musk often not correct in his predictions of timeline and price when bringing something to market. All the investors I spoke to pointed out something important. There was not much discussion of the business model. The idea that in the future, Tesla operates a proprietary ride-hailing app that's built on a fleet of robotaxis. It was thin on detail and thin on discussion of the regulatory plan. There was no mention of China and very little about the United States. And I think that will be the next phase of this story, what happens next. Ed Ludlow for Bloomberg News in Los Angeles.
Ain't nobody's having iRobot flashbacks. There's this show. It's a fairly new show. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Upload. Okay, I'm gonna give this show some time on my show. The show is called Upload, and it's about when people die. You have the ability to upload your consciousness into a computer system where you can live out your life with a body, as a sim character, as it were, something like that, okay? And the main character, he's the main character because he and his friend were going about creating a system just like the Upload system that will be a lot cheaper and will be available for more people, specifically because he wanted it to be available for his mother, okay? So, in the TV show, main character dies, and how he died was that he got into a RoboCab, and the owners of Upload, the company that allowed you to upload your consciousness into this system, they took control of his CyberCab, as it were, and crashed it and killed his ass. That's all I see. That's all. I mean, and that's all I see here. You don't have any control. You don't have no pedals, no steering wheel. You have no control over no control whatsoever of this vehicle. It is completely autonomous and controlled by someone else. You can't stop it. You can't turn it. Look, I'm all about the future. I'm all about technology. I'm all about leading into the future. This shit still kind of bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm with the Tesla. I really like the concierge feature. But only so far. You know what I mean? I want to have some control over some autonomous thing killing me. I know it's the future. I know it's going to happen. I don't know how fast it's going to happen, if it's going to happen in my lifetime. And it should, hopefully, if I live long enough. But I'm telling you guys, it scares me to some degree. So, but let's talk about it. I mean, CyberCab, it seems awesome. It looks real cool. That bus thing is pretty awesome. The robots give me Skynet vibes, and I ain't with that. You know, just walking out as a like a military group, just looking just like iRobot. Man, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Y'all pushing it, bro. I mean, y'all. It's like y'all don't watch movies, man. It's like y'all don't watch movies, bro. Come on. Them things look exactly like the iRobot things. They just walking out cool. Choke the shit out your ass. I don't know, man. It's nice. It's the future. We expected it to happen. We know it was coming. It's probably extremely viable. It's giving me mad Skynet, you know, computers taking over the world vibes, turning us into batteries. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird. Let's get to the main topic. I'm gonna cut this short because it's weird, man. I'm telling you, it's really giving me that, you know. The situation just it's not great. It's not great. But I mean, it's the future, and we can't stop it. It's going to happen, and hopefully, a lot of us are around when it happens, and hopefully, you know, they can put in safety nets to keep these things from taking over. But I highly doubt it. All right, so last but not least, Donald Trump decided he was going to stop over in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club, and he was going to give a little controversial speech. So we're going to check out a good portion of it, you know, but mostly we're going to check out what he said about the automotive industry. And of course, he's in Detroit. So of course, the majority of this speech was about the automotive industry. So let's check it out.
I had that GTO. Oh, I thought I was the hottest guy around. It was crazy. We didn't have all of the foreign competition then. We were so proud to have a Corvette. Oh, if you had a Corvette. I never got a Corvette. I tell you, I was left behind. But I had my GTO. That was something, man. I'd put that top down. See, in those days, I didn't mind when the hair waved. I'd go fast, and that hair would be waving, that blonde hair, and I'd say, who the hell can take me? Nobody. Today, I'm a little more careful. I want to cover up that little area up there. It's a little bit soft up there. Cover it up. No, it was great. But you had the greatest product. It was just fantastic. And right here in Detroit, Americans invented the muscle car and the minivan and the family SUV, so much. And along the road, you made the American automobile an inseparable part of the, and it was inseparable of the American dream. It was part of the American dream.
Exactly.
But after decades and decades of Michigan auto workers giving our nation their very best, our leaders in Washington did their very worst for them. They were terrible. You lost nearly 4 million manufacturing jobs after globalist politicians gave us the twin disasters of NAFTA, which I terminated, and China's entry into the World Trade Organization. That was a very expensive two things. Nearly 250,000 jobs were destroyed here. Right here in Michigan alone, think of it. 250,000, 250,000 jobs, including 40% of all of the auto jobs. And then it got to be much higher than that. Detroit was decimated as if by a foreign army. This was a foreign army invading us, but it was an army of business people, very brilliant business people, that took the candy out of our pockets just like you take it from a baby. That's how easy it was for them. Factories were left in ruins, beautiful hotels and theaters crumbled. More than 80,000 homes were abandoned. You see it outside.
I'm gonna jump in here real quickly and say that there was a time that Detroit was in a serious decline, but I have to tell you guys that I know I'm from the Midwest, so I spent a lot of time over there, and you know, it was considered a black city for a long time, and that connotation never dictates a fantastic thing, but it was crime ridden, we know, and it was bad, but we do know that it had a major resurgence. So just wanted to throw that in there real quickly.
By the time I came into office after our victory in 2016, the Michigan auto industry was on its knees begging for help, gasping, and really it was at the last breaths of life. And I had to move quickly. You were going to not have any auto industry here. It was all gone. It was just about over. They were going to move so fast, and I let countries that were stealing our businesses know, you do that, I'm going to do things to you you're not going to believe. I'm going to put tariffs. They laid off a lot. They could have taken it. We were at a very vulnerable point. I let certain countries know that if you do that, I'm going to put tariffs on you, and you're going to get your asses kicked, I'm telling you. And they laid off. They really laid off. But they laid off what? We had not very much left. So just as I promised, I withdrew from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership in my very first week. And the reason I did is that would have absolutely destroyed your auto industry. You would have had none left. It was a disaster. And if you remember, Hillary Clinton wanted it, and Obama wanted it. And then after she read the facts that when I did it, she came out against it because she said, you know, he's right. She was totally in favor of it. But when she said, she came out actually and agreed with me. And she said, I'm also against it. But I was there. It's sort of like no tax on tips. And then 2 months later, Kamala came out, no tax on tips. And it didn't play well for her. Didn't play well for Hillary either, obviously. I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made by our country, and replaced it with the brand new USMCA. Bob Lighthizer and his team did a great job. The best trade deal they say ever made. I actually think maybe our deal with China, but I don't talk about that deal very much because of COVID. But we have a deal with China where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. That was a great deal. We made a lot of good ones. But with the USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada, we have massive incentives to make cars in the United States of America. I renegotiated Obama's Korea trade deal, which was a disaster, to fully restore the protective tariff on foreign pickup trucks. You know, the auto industry in this country makes most of its money from the pickup truck. Who would think, right? But we do great. If we didn't have that, you'd have no auto industry. You would, because that subsidizes other things. And
that is true. I mean, the auto industry, specifically in rural areas, relies on pickup truck sales. You have used to have a lot of farms, a lot of farmers, a lot of need for big trucks, specifically in Indiana, but pretty much all over the world. And they've always been the main sellers in most automotive places. You specifically for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and things of that nature, but the pickup truck has been a staple. The 1500, the Ford F-150s, you can't go wrong.
The only reason it does is that the tariff on every single one of the big, if you didn't have the tariffs, if I didn't put those tariffs, you would be inundated from all over the world, and you wouldn't have it. Every single one of the Detroit Big Three could right now, and would right now, guaranteed be out of business. 50% of their U.S. sales are pickup trucks. Think of that, 50%. Sure. They make all their money with almost all their money. I want to be very accurate because you get a lot of fake news back there. I want to be extremely accurate. They came to see you in Detroit. I'll tell you, that's a good thing because they're going to hear some things today I think that are going to be very interesting. Perhaps most importantly, I imposed a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese automobiles, which largely kept them out of the market, meaning kept them out of the market and kept Detroit in business. In other words, I kept Chinese cars, out of America, And we had to do it because when they come in, they take over everything, and you would have had no car manufacturing at all. And it was only me that did it. I met with a lot of.
And since he did do that, we have seen lots of China vehicles swim over here. And we're going to continue to see it. We really sit here and act like the 100% tariff that Biden did is going to stop these China automakers from coming over. We think that BYD is going to stop and they're just going to build a factory over in Mexico and not ship their vehicles over here. That's not how it's going to go down. They're going to find a way to get their vehicles here. They're going to find their way to get their vehicles into American hands. And the only key is for America to make sure that we guarantee that when that happens, that we benefit. And the only way we can benefit is if we as a country are, making money off of these vehicles as well as consuming them. Let's keep going.
Resistance. And remember this, between the lobbyists and everything else, it's brutal. It's brutal. Getting people to go along with you is brutal. Even if it's the wrong thing. They know it's the wrong thing, but they get paid a lot of money. So I just want to say, Michigan, you're welcome, because we have a little base to start off. And if you look at Europe, Chinese cars have been absolutely drowning Europe, drowning it. It's killing it. But because of me, they are not drowning America. You see very few of them because of the tariffs. And when they do come in, they pay a lot of money. The Biden administration is thinking of taking that tax off. And if they take that tax off, you can wave goodbye to your auto industry. And you have the worst union leader probably in the history of, maybe in the history of our country for any business. I don't know him. Sean Fain is a disaster. But your industry would be gone very quickly. Under my leadership, we created nearly 500,000 brand new manufacturing jobs, including 30,000 auto manufacturing jobs right away. We saved it and we got it going. And that was nothing compared to what I'm talking about now. Nothing. Because we had COVID come in that final period, and we had to focus on that. The share of cars sold that were domestically produced increased for the first time in many years. It actually, because it was going down, down, down. And since I left, wait till you hear those numbers. The U.S. trade deficit in automobiles dropped by $6.8 billion. Think of that. And I had to do it on the fly. We had to do it fast because you were going to have no industry whatsoever. Whatever you have now, and it's a fraction of what you used to have in the glory days. I call them the glory days. That was when we were the greatest in so many ways. U.S. Steel, look at it. They want to sell U.S. Steel to a foreign country. I'm going to not let that happen. I hope the deal doesn't close before then. I will not let that happen. We need our steel. I imposed a tremendous tariff on China and the steel. They were dumping steel all over the country, and our steel mills were going out of business. And I put a 50% tariff on, and that largely stopped it. And I think the people that like me the best are the steel people, because I saved their industry. We wouldn't have one steel plant in this country if I didn't do that. There wouldn't be one. And I had no wars, but other than I finished off ISIS very quickly. But I had no wars. But whether you have wars or don't have wars, when you have to make army tanks and when you have to make planes and everything else that you have to do is mostly steel. And we don't want to be in a position where we have a problem and we need China to help us out with steel. That could be a serious problem. Do you think they'd mind selling us some steel in the middle of a conflict? But I don't think we'll have a conflict with China. I think we'll get along with China, and I think we'll get along with Russia, and I think we'll get along with Ukraine, and I think we're going to get that one settled. And I think we're not going to have a problem with Israel, like October 7th would never have happened. Russia would have never happened. They would have never gone into Ukraine.
All right, so, and it was a pretty long speech, and he did have some derogatory statements about Detroit that were very controversial, and I personally think that those statements were more about the Detroit back in the day before Dan Gilbert started the renaissance of making Detroit what it is now. So, so besides that, everything he said is true, and what we're really talking about is a desire for, because we can't stop it. The automotive industry can't really stop China from bringing vehicles over here. We can't stop getting parts from them, getting steel, getting imports, getting parts for certain vehicles, getting certain vehicles from China. We can't stop that. We're at a point where that's going to be hard to do. So we're going to have to negotiate. We're going to have to make sure that they understand that if we're going to buy your product, then we're going to need some reciprocation. And the simplest way of getting reciprocation is for you to provide us here an opportunity to make money off of your product as well as consume it. And that's what he's talking about. Talking about these companies, specifically for me, BYD, or any other China automaker, to have factories over here to build certain parts, to build, the vehicles themselves. It doesn't matter to me. But we have to be able to reciprocate and not just consume. That is the biggest thing. You cannot sit here and be a consumer and not be profitable off the things you're consuming. It's one of those things that we talked about back in the day. It's not like don't get high off your own supply. It's more like, if you're going to buy from me, or if I'm going to buy from you, you need to make it worth me buying from you. And the way to do that is to put some money in my pocket, building factories that provide opportunities for us here, because we've lost so much of that. Specifically in the automotive industry, we've lost so much of that. So many factories have closed down. So many factories have had layoffs, massive layoffs. We need these jobs back. And I particularly think that one way to get some of these jobs back is to build more factories, but it can't be factories from Stellantis or the big three or Chrysler or Dodge Jeep, because those are going out of business. We need factories from companies that are booming. The BMWs, the BYDs, the Volvos. We need the Mercedes. We need those factories here. And we need it quick. We need a presidency that is going to make sure that happens. And that's what I need to hear from my presidential candidate, is how we're going to get over this automotive hump. This is my thing. This is what I'm concentrating on. It's the automotive industry, because, like I've said many times before, it's like a cataclysm. It's like a perfect representative of the United States of America and how it's going. We can only hope, because I don't trust no politician. I think that politicians have to lie to get into office, because that they'll say that they're going to do certain things, and then once they get into office, for certain reasons, they can't do those certain things, and that still makes you a liar. But, I hope that, my hope is that if Trump does become president, that he honors these things he's saying, because these are definitely things that the automotive industry needs right now. So bad. So bad. If you tune into my show at all, you know that the layoffs are constant and all the time and continuous. So let's hope that if Kamala has a better way to repair the automotive industry, I'm all for it. I'm surely listening for it. I'm surely listening for her to tell me that, because that is what I want to know. All right, my friends, I'm going to go and get out of here. Just an impromptu show, but we're going to try to do more shows. Get it out there. People starting to tune in, and we love it. Please like, share, subscribe. Check me out. I'm your boy, Chris Surratt, and I'm out. Peace.